You're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you are able and join me in the welcoming of City Council and the playing of the national anthem and the reading of the invocation.
Please remain standing then as I read the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who've served our community and who are no longer with us, and that we must continue to do the work that we do in their memory. So please be seated. So this evening we have Chris Gauthier to my right, providing clerking services for our meeting with assistance from behind us by Emma Vokes. Chris, would you please take the roll?
Councillor Samwell.
Present.
Councillor Martin.
Here.
Councillor Caputo.
Present.
Councillor Sokoli.
Present.
Councillor Van Toborg.
Present.
Councillor Carpenter.
Here.
Councillor McCreary.
Here.
Councillor Sless.
Present.
Councillor Sullivan.
Present.
Mayor Davis.
Present.
Through the chair, roll call has been taken.
Thank you very much. So we'll now deal with conflicts of interest. Understand we have several. Councillor Sless, I understand you have one with respect to 12.41. Would you please state your conflict and the nature of that conflict?
Yes, my conflict is with the financials of the John Noble Home, as I have a family member employed there.
All right, so we'll separate that both in terms of minutes and also the estimates budget. All right. And I believe Councillor Carbon, you've got a conflict on 12.5.22.
Yes, 12.5.2.2. It's appointments committee to the Police Services Board. One of the applicants originally was a business partner of mine.
Councillor Scully.
Yes, I also have a conflict with item 12.5.1 as a business associate of mine is on one of the lists here for appointments. It is appointments of citizen members to various committees and boards. Thank you.
Which one is it?
Item 12.5.1.
But which specific appointment?
Economic development, tourism, and cultural initiatives. Item 2.
And so you want to declare conflict just on that item, but not the rest?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other conflicts? Not seeing any. So record of that. Yeah. Okay. So we'll deal with the separation of items. So the items that have been separated already, 12.4.1, which is the approval of the capital budget. There are 2 amendments coming forward at least. And then of course we have the items where conflicts were just declared in respect to the John Noble Home and the appointments committee. Any other items members wish to be separated? Yes, Councillor Martin.
Item 12.2.10.
Okay. Anything else? So not seeing any other items that are being separated for discussion purposes or conflicts. So Councillor Sullivan, I believe you have the motion to approve all items that have not been separated.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. This is obviously moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Secoli, that all items contained within the committee reports, items 12.1 to 12.5, not separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
All right, so before we take the vote, Mr. Deputy Clerk, would you please read out the title of the items that we're voting on?
Through the chair, the following items are subject to the vote. From the Human Resources Committee report, 12.1.1, housing support assistant and housing support worker positions. From Committee of the Whole Operations and Planning and Administration combined meeting, 12.2.1, amendments to the on-street parking fees for Sanderson Center events. Item 12.2.2, lease renewal with Glenhurst Art Gallery of Brant. Item 12.2.3, open air burning bylaw. Item 12.2.4, downtown community improvement plan, property tax increment based grant application for 7 Erie Avenue. Item 12.2.5, estimated cost for provincial designation of municipal law enforcement officers required to assist in the enforcement of cannabis legislation. Item 12.2.6, police station task force report. Item 12.2.7, Brantford Airport Board report. Item 12.2.8, Via Rail cancellations. Item 12.2.9, Oak Hill Drive, traffic calming and pedestrian crossovers. Item 12.2.11, fire incident, 321 Henry Street on October 18th, 2022. Item 12.2.12, review of city-owned lands for development opportunities. Item 12.2.13, portable signs extending permit days. From the Planning Committee report, item 12.3.1, zoning bylaw amendment PZ-10-22, 415 to 417 Colburn Street. From the Estimates Committee report, item 12.4.2, 2023 shared social services operating and capital budget approval. From the Appointments Committee, item 12.5.1, as it relates to Councillor Sokoli's conflict with regards to the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And item 12, so for the previous one, it's all of the other appointments minus Councillor Sokoli's conflict. And then item 12.2.5 of the Nominating Committee report excluding Councillor Carpenter's conflict with regards to item 12.5.2.2.
Okay, take the vote.
The separation of all items not separated for discussion purposes carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCurry, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we have, there's no statutory public hearings this evening. We have no recognitions of achievement, but we do have one proclamation. Councillor Carpenter, would you please move the proclamation and state your seconder and then also read the proclamation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg. Whereas Brant Community Foundation, a charity serving Brantford, Brant County, Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of First Credit, builds community and vitality. And whereas February 17, 2023 has been earmarked by the Brantford Community Foundation as a day to recognize kindness and humanity in our communities. And whereas the Brant Community Foundation is committed to encourage random acts of kindness as a way to touch the lives of one another and make our world a better place. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Council of the Corporated City of Brantford proclaim February 17th, 2023 to be Random Act of Kindness Day and encourage all citizens to embrace kindness and pay acts of kindness forward as a key to achieving a better, kind community. Thank you.
All right, now call the vote on the proclamation.
Proclamations carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move to the clerk's report on communications. I believe Councillor Sicoli, you have that motion. Would you please read it and state your second?
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Sullivan, that the clerk's report on communication for January 2023 be received.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk, take the vote, please.
The clerk's report on communication carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move into minutes. And Councillor Celeste previously declared a conflict on the John Noble Home minutes, so we'll vote on those separately. And Councillor Martin, if you please move the motion to adopt the minutes listed in the agenda and state your seconder.
Thank you. I move seconded by Councillor McCurry that the following minutes be adopted. 11.1 City Council, December 20th. 11.2 Special City Council, December 20th. 11.3 Special City Council, January 10th. 11.4 Special City Council, January 17th. And 11.5 Special Council, Private and Confidential, January 17th. And I also move that the following minutes be received. 11.11 John Noble Home Committee of Management, December 14th. And 11.12 John Noble Home Committee of Management, January 11th.
All right, thank you. Because of the conflict, we'll deal separately with the minutes of City Council and Special City Council. Any errors and omissions on those minutes? Seeing none, Mr. Deputy Clerk, please take the vote on that.
City Council and Special City Council minutes carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, and we'll move on to receiving the minutes of the John Noble Home, noting Councillor Celeste's conflict.
The John Noble Home minutes carries unanimously on recorded vote, noting that Councillor Celeste declared a conflict and did not vote during the vote. So members who voted in favor are as follows: Councillors Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so now move on to the items that have been separated. Councillor Van Tilburg, if you please read the motion to place all separate items on the floor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Samwell, that all items in the committee reports, item 12.1 to 12.5, separated for discussion, be approved.
Thank you. So we'll now take up the items as they were separated in numerical order. 12.2.10, that is at your request, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be voting against this. This is the normal cost of doing business for developers. So why we're rebating 50% to one particular developer, I can't understand, and I certainly can't support. Although the developers have to pay this fee, it's something that's part of the cost of doing business. It's normal practice for developers. And I see no reason why we should be given a 50% refund to one individual developer when I'm sure all developers would love to have the fee cut in half.
Seeing no further hands, Mr. Deputy Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 12.2.10 carries on recorded vote of 6-4. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Caputo. Members of council voting against: Councillor Sullivan, Sokoli, Martin, and Mayor Davis.
All right, let's move then to the items 12.4.1, which is the estimates committee. And we do have Councillor Sluss's conflict declared on the John Noble home. So let's deal with that separately. There are no amendments proposed in respect to that. I don't think there's any discussion unless anybody wants to discuss. No, okay. All right. So, Mr. Deputy Clerk.
The capital budget approval for the John Noble home carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor as follows. Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Marn, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis, noting that Councillor Sluss had declared a conflict of interest and did not vote on the matter.
All right. So I believe there are some amendments. I believe Councillor McCreary, you have an amendment you'd like to make.
Mayor, that's correct. And the seconder is Councillor Martin. And I'll read it to you, Mayor. Reads that estimates committee report be amended to remove the following from the 23 capital budget. Firstly, item 4B, item 75, archaeology master plan update, $350,000. 2 is item 4B-8, item reference 76, parking master plan, $250. Number 3 is item 7D6, item 16, transit optimization study. Fourthly is item 7D-22, item reference 85, Gretzky Center water slide, $700,000. Item 5 is item 7D-114, item 184, environmental services facilities energy audit, $200,000. Item 6 is item 7D-116, item 186, recreational facilities and outdoor sports field inventory plan, $140,000. And B, the tax supported reserve funding totaling $1.10600 from the projects identified in A be used one time to reduce the capital envelope transfers contained in the 2023 operating budget. And by way of explanation, Mayor and members of committee, for the public, my reference to all these item numbers is how it appears before us when we go through the roadmap and through the documents pertaining to the budget. What we have here, in my estimation, is a number of plans which staff and committee have deemed are of use to the corporation, but things perhaps that can be put off a year. We are facing a fair hike this year in terms of what we're going to pass along to our constituents, and it's a tough year. Not just here in the corporation, but for folks who are also bedeviled by the rising cost of living, inflation, and all the things that seem to be piling on the rabbit to make life more difficult for folks. By deferring these a year or indefinitely, what we're doing is, if I understand correctly, is we will not collect from the taxpayer monies to finance these projects during 2023. Which will provide $1 million in relief to the community's taxpayers. I think we can do without this stuff this year. And there may be a lot of people in the community that just can't bear the increased cost of living, let alone, the amounts that we're going to pass on to them, most of which is quite needful. I can understand why some members of committee might not want to support this, and that doesn't mean that they're not concerned with taxpayers, but I think it's an opportunity for us to give a bit of a break. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. So unless anybody objects, I think what we should do in terms of procedure, we'll have a general discussion, but I'll call the vote individually in each of those items, and I'll leave the vote on B to the end, because depending on how many of those items are accepted or rejected, I believe the dollar amount in B would change to reflect that. So if you have no objections, that's how I'd like to address it. So Councillor Van Tilburg.
So Mayor, were you addressing that to the mover?
Yeah, it's to the council as a whole. That's what I'm suggesting, unless anybody objects. Okay. All right. Nobody's objecting. So Councillor Van Tilburg.
I'd like an amendment to the amendment. If we could, since we're doing it the way when you said separate, if we could add 74.9 and as well as the motion that was passed with regards to the environmental assessment on Power Line Road. I'd like that back on there so we can look at that number again as well.
All right, so what you're asking is to add some additional items?
Add to that additional items to that list, those two items.
Okay. So the first one is which one?
7D49,
74.
7D49.
749. And which one is that?
That is Ada and Palmerston. I believe that's the work that goes around to landscaping the area, making it look pretty at the dead end.
So you're suggesting that come out?
I'm suggesting that be added to the list. That's the pre-existing that in the amendment. Yes, I'm adding that to the amendment.
All right, so that would be taking it out in essence of the budget.
Well, taking out deferral as Councillor McCurry
Yeah,
mentioned. Yes,
Same.
correct.
Okay. And the other one you had?
The one that was put on at the end of the last estimates committee, the environmental assessment on Power Line Road and Paris Road to be added to the 2023 capital budget, $2,075,000 from, and then $425,000 from reserve.
And that was there a number 7?
Well, I don't know how it's done. It's done as the motion is passed in section 7.e. So I just thought, since we have something there, we'll put it there and have a discussion.
Okay, so we've got, and who's seconding that?
Seeking a seconder.
Second by Councillor Sullivan. So discussion on the amendment, which is to add these two items which would then in effect remove them from the capital budget for this year. Any discussion on that? Yes, Councillor McCray.
Mayor, thank you through you to staff. Is there a member of staff that could indicate whether or not the removal of these two items from 23 would benefit the bottom line to the taxpayer in 23?
Through Mr. Chair to Councillor McCurry. So the potential removal of 7D49, which is the Ava Road, the full amount of that project for 2023, the 500,000 would be added as tax supported reductions to number 2 of the motion.
So $500,000 would come out.
Yes, currently in addition to the 1.1 and change that's currently.
And the EA, that would all come out?
None of that would come out. It's all water and water development charges.
Okay, so that has no bearing. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman McCray.
All right, Councillor Sikoli to the amendment.
To the amendment, through the mayor, if there's some staff present who can just fill me in on what it would mean if we remove the environmental assessment north of Power Line. If that were removed, what would the consequences of that be as far as moving forward with those lands?
Through the chair, so Councillor Coley, this was originally, sorry, in the hands, General Manager, Public Works. This was originally slated for, I think, late 2020s, 2027, 28, I believe. And that was based on the transportation master plan. But what we're seeing is a lot of growth happening in the Northland, especially the blocks on the east and the central. So with that, there's really 2 phases of this plan. There's Power Line from King George Road to the east city limits, and then King George Road over to around Paris Road, just east of Paris Road. This would encompass the whole stretch of Power Line. And pushing it 1 year would just, I mean, EAs take 2 years, design would take 2 years, and then construction could take a year and a half. So you'd be ready to go around the 27 mark, 28. So if we look at what's happening in terms of our development approvals, that's probably in and around where a lot of that development activity would be happening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, to the amendment, I'll say that I'm going to vote for the amendment because the amendment actually just puts them on the list. I may not then vote to delete them from the budget, but I think Councillor Van Tilburg's request should kind of have the same status and be there when we have the vote on each of those individual items. So I'm going to vote in favor of adding it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'll then support it when we deal with it individually. Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. Deputy Clerk, take the vote. All right, Councillor Caputo.
Would I be able to make an amendment to the amendment to the amendment?
No.
I'd like to put back into a capital budget 7D6 reference 16 transit optimization study.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Sorry, what do you,
Is that the wrong?
Were we talking about Ava Road?
Yeah.
Oh,
so we're just dealing with an amendment.
Okay, never
And
mind. I'll come back to
in
that
your
later.
previous request, you can't do it procedurally an amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so not seeing any further discussion. Let's take the vote, please.
Mayor, can we see those separately? For separate vote as you've asked with the original amendment?
So we can have a separate vote on the amendment. So let's deal first with 7.D.49 Adam Palmerston. So again, this is not deleting it from the budget yet. It's just adding it to the list for final vote. Yep, just separate them, please.
The amendment to the amendment regarding the first capital project carries on a recorded vote of 7-3. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis. Members opposed: Councillors Sless, Caputo, and Martin.
Right, and then the environmental assessment one.
The amendment to the amendment regarding the environmental assessment is lost on a vote of 4-6. Members voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Mayor Davis. Members opposed: Councillors Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Sless, Martin, and McCreary.
Okay, so we now have, it's been amended, so the amendment's been amended. So we'll now have the discussion on the amendments as a group or individually, but then we'll then take the vote on each one of them individually. And we'll do a separate vote on B because we need to know how many are in or out before we can put the dollar amount in. So let's start off the debate. Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting any of these. To me, this is false economy. You're going to save a few bucks this year. You're going to spend more for it to get it done next year. So you're not saving any money. You're actually increasing the cost of getting something done. It to me, it just doesn't make any sense. If it was that important, we would have cut it out when we were debating that in detail, all of the projects. And now we're pulling some out and dealing with them in isolation of the whole. So I didn't support adding 2 more in, and I don't support the ones that were moved ahead of that. I just don't think it's appropriate, and I don't think it. Well, in the short term, it saves money. In the long term, it costs money. So I won't be supporting it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I've got a question for staff. So the total amount of our capital budget, I believe it was reduced from what it was last year, about $10 million less. I got that straight. Sorry, Joelle, if you could answer that.
Through Mr. Chair, yes, it is significantly less. I believe it's probably about $20 million without
Right.
looking. Yeah.
Okay, and that's less than what it would be on average. So can we anticipate next year the capital budget amount will be higher than what it is for this year, given the projects that are on the books for next year?
Yeah, certainly when we look at the long-term forecast, there's a lot of projects in the first 2 to 4 year timeframe as opposed to later in the timeframe.
Yeah, so I'm not going to vote for any of these either. I mean, I understand the request and the desire and the intent, but it's just going to catch up to us, and it's really going to hurt in a year or two from now, when in fact our capital budget will be higher than what it is now. And like if you're comparing one year to the next, you got to catch up the increase, and then in addition, you're going to be catching up these amounts that we deferred to, I would say, artificially deflate the capital budget for this year when it's already down about 20 million from last year. So, so any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Martin and Councillor Sikoli.
Thank you. Some of these, you're correct. They'll have to be done sooner or later. Others, like the archaeology master plan, the stuff that's in the ground has been there 100 years. That's why it makes it of archaeological importance. And I don't see it moving. I don't see it having been moved in the last little while. So I don't think this is one that we need to do at all. So it's not just a matter of deferring it or kicking the can down the road. It's a matter of removing it. When you look at things like the transit optimization study, I think that's something we should do in-house, because all we're going to do is hire an outside consultant for big bucks. They're going to come in and they're going to talk to all their drivers. They're going to talk to some of the transit riders. They're going to talk to the inspectors, and they're going to coalesce all that information and come back with a report. Why don't we have a staff member do that? We know what they're going to do. We know who they're going to talk to. This is something that should be done in-house for substantial savings. So some of these, yeah, we're going to have to do anyway, but others, I think we need to eliminate it and look at bringing it in-house instead of hiring outside consultants at expensive prices to come in and ask our own people what should be done. That's something we can do ourselves. So I'll be supporting some of these for sure, maybe not all of them.
Councillor Sikoli.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. The transit optimization study is one that I will absolutely not be supporting this evening. That's something that's extremely important, and we're trying to save money to make Brantford more affordable, and the transit system is the means of getting around the city for people who don't have vehicles and who need it. So I would hate to see us, sacrifice here and not get this done right. So the transit optimization study, Mayor Davis, if it would be acceptable to you, I would like to amend this again, just to remove it and get it off the table. I know we're voting on everything separately, but I would feel better if this was just removed, because it is so crucial and so important to the residents.
In effect, we're doing that by a separate vote.
So you won't let me amend it to remove
Correct.
it?
That's really not an amendment, because that's voting procedure, which we've already determined will be done separately.
All right. I hope I can count on everyone to vote that down today. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the staff, don't have my capital plan in front of me. I can't switch back and forth, but that's fine. I'd like to know how much of this is reserve fund money, which will go back into the reserve and stay there for future. I think the number says $1 million balance, and so my number comes up to over 2 million. So does that mean there's $1 million staying in reserves and the rest is tax supported?
Through Mr. Chair, the total value of these projects is 2.54 million. Some of that is tax supported reserves, which right now is 1.61 million. The remainder is made up of a combination of other obligatory reserves that can't be used for operational purposes. So that's items like transportation development charges, Canada Community Building Fund, which is the new federal gas tax funding. So, and some of it is rate reserves as well. So water and wastewater funded. So of the 2.54, only 1.6 relates to tax supported reserve funding.
And it's 1.6 because the 500,000 was added on. Okay, so as to the number, that's fine. And coming forward, do we have this is the difficulty. We do the capital budget before the operating budget. We have no idea what the operating budget is coming in at yet. Do you have a number for the operating budget at this point before we start getting into the process?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are distributing that budget to members of council on Thursday. We do expect at this point that it will be coming in, considering assessment growth at a number that's under 3%.
Under 3, and this would bring it down under 2, I take it then.
I would need to go back and recalculate the numbers from the original motion, but 1.61 million would probably be it'd be less than 1%, probably inching closer to 0.85 or 0.9.
0.85. Okay. Getting us down to a little over 2.5. I guess that's the difficulty when we, Mr. Mayor, members of council, when we sort of ad hoc do these cuts, not that they're bad or good or indifferent, but doing them without knowing what the operating budget even looks like and how that affects us, because of course everything is from the operating budget to the capital budget, the contributions. I understand the mover and second are trying to give us some room in that operating budget and the second amendment as well, trying to give us some room of almost 1.8% to reduce the operating budget without us even having seen the operating budget for us to decide what we're going to reduce. Always been loath to do the capital budget first for that reason. We used to do it years ago afterwards because we could then deal with the operating and then we would know what was left. And if we we're short in operating things that needed to be happen, we took it from the capital. I guess that's why the capital came first, because we were always sort of shortchanging the capital and things weren't getting done and our facilities weren't being kept up. So I just want to, it's a process that probably, if I had my way, I'd refer all this till after the operating budget, but I don't think I'll get that way. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other discussion. Mr. Deputy Clerk, please go through in a separate line item vote on each item, starting with the 4B7, which is the archaeological master plan update. So again, just to be clear, if you're voting yes, you're voting to remove it or defer it out of this year's budget.
Item 4B7 carries on a recorded vote of 7-3. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli. Members of council voting against: Councillors Sless, Samuel, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, let's move on to item 4.B.8, which is the parking master plan.
Item 4B.8 is lost on a recorded vote of 3-7. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Martin, McCreary. Members of council voting opposed: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Sless, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, item 7D.6, which is the transit optimization study.
Item 7D6 is lost on recorded vote of 2-8. Members of council voting against are as follows: Councillors McCreary and Councillor Martin. Members of council voting against: Councillors Sullivan, Sless, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, next is item 7D.22. This is the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center water slide.
Item 7D.22 is lost on a tie vote of 5-5. Members of council voting for are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Caputo, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter. Members of council voting against are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Sless, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, let's deal with next is item 7D.114. This is the environmental services facilities energy audit.
Item 7D114 is lost on a tie vote. Members of council voting in favor as follows. Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Sokoli. Members of council voting against, Councillors Sless, Samuel, Marn, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
Next would be item 7D.116. This is the recreational facilities and outdoor sports field inventory plan.
Item 7D116 is lost and recorded vote of 3-7. Members of council voting in favor as follows. Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, and Martin. Members of council voting against, Councillors Sless, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, and then the next one I believe is 7D.49 Ada and Palmerston.
Item 7D49 is lost on recorded vote of 3-6. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, and Van Tilburg. Members opposed, Councillors Samuel, Carpenter, Marn, Sless, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so that leaves us with B, and the dollar amount was originally 1,110,600. Would that now be 350,000 because it was just 4B7 that was deleted? Is that the right number?
Yes, Mayor Davis, that's correct.
Okay. So voting on B then, it's really just procedural in nature. And the dollar amount matches the item 4.B7, which is 350,000.
Clause B carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council vote in favor as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Marn, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, any other, Councillor Martin, do you have another amendment you'd like to bring forward?
Well,
Or
first
E
I have-
amendment?
First, I have a question to staff. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we received supplemental information regarding the timekeepers building and the portico. And it indicated that the Industrial Heritage Group was only interested in the facade of the timekeepers building. So my question through the staff, this project, does it deal with rehabilitation of the full building or just the facade?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, this project would not rehabilitate, it would preserve and maintain the structure of the exterior of the building. It does not do anything to renovate or improve the insides of the building.
But it deals with the building in its
The whole
entirety?
structure, the entire structure there, yes.
Okay, with that information, Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we remove this item from the capital budget. This is something that only the facade's going to be used. It seems ridiculous to facilitate the saving of the building if it's not going to be used. So seeking a seconder, I'd like to remove this item.
Seconder for that? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you.
Any discussion? I'll go first to Councillor Sless, then Councillor McCreary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Cox. Rick, is there a reason that we do the whole building when they actually want the facade? Does the whole building hold the facade up until time to do it?
That's correct, through the chair.
So if if we want to save the facade, we have to save the entire structure until the facade has been stabilized or whatever you do to it.
Through the chair, I'm sure there's ways to shore up the facade without the rest of the building holding it up. But I would need to understand whether there's a cost reduction in leaving the building, that's the building structure that's there, holding it up, or taking away those elements and putting something different up to hold the facade. I don't have that information. That wasn't part of the analysis we did.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I won't support taking this out. I think one can't help but drive through Cambridge and notice how they've kept remnants of buildings and how nice it looks, and it all along their waterfront there. And I think we do a very, very poor job in this city, and this is an opportunity to do something nice. So I'll be supporting leaving it in.
Councilor McCurry.
Thank you, Mayor. Rick, there are two components to the 66 Mohawk site, correct? There's the Timekeeper's building, which is a structure of about 24 feet by 24 feet, 4 walls and a roof. And then you have the portico of the original office building, which is located next to that. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
And the work that is specified in this line item is simply the building, or does it include the portico as well?
It includes the portico as well.
Okay. Now, the building is a designated structure, correct?
Yes, there are others who have more expertise in the actual components of the designation than I do, but yes.
Yeah. And in fact, I'll remind those who've been around a while that this was the original designation that was done without the owner's blessing at the time. This was an item of great import to the council of the day, and it was a significant event in the community's history. So we are the custodians of this building, and it's a pretty big number to work one's head around, but it guarantees the future of that little structure, and it guarantees the immediate future of the portico, which may at some point in time, as was originally intended by a prior council, that may become incorporated into another structure, another facility on that site. So I would agree with my learned friend to my left here that it's important that this continue. I'd be very surprised if we use up all that budget. I know that that staff have allowed for every eventuality there. We may get off a little easier. This is going to be part of a grander redevelopment site, and now is not the time to be devastating our heritage by failing to support this. We're critical of other building owners when they do the very same thing by ignoring our heritage, and let's not lead by example in that respect.
Councilor Carpenter.
Thank you. Councilor McCurry has a good memory. And I'd hope that the rest of the city and council would have a good memory too. We in Brantford have a heck of a good story to tell about what was on that property. And the reason this got saved in the first place, because someone came along and started demolishing everything and had no intention of saving everything. I can remember the person's name. And I'm sure Councilor McCurry can too. And we had to put a stop to it just to save what was there. If we don't remember our past, we will. We certainly should remember the hard work of the good people of Eagle Place and the residents of East Ward that worked in the factories there that made Brantford the 4th largest industrial place in all of Canada. We were leaders at one time, and we will be leaders again. For us to forget that and the contributions of the people of this community would certainly be a missed opportunity. And the Industrial Heritage Museum folks. That's exactly what they want to do. And rightfully so. We need to remember where we came from. If we're going to go to a better place and build a better community, we certainly have to remember our past. And these people of Eagle Place and East Ward gave large contributions to make this community the place it is today. And so I won't support taking it out either for those very reasons.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Rick. So given that we better understand what it is that the Industrial Heritage Museum folks have in mind for this, would you be, assuming we approve this, I mean, not approve taking it out, but leave it in, would you be looking at potentially modifying the project to make sure that what's done is in line with what it is that the Industrial Heritage Museum wants to save? And not just simply saving anything, regardless whether that's going to be incorporated in the museum or not.
Through the chair, yes, we would make sure that we're not protecting or preserving things that wouldn't necessarily need to be protected in the future.
Okay, so I'll call the vote on this one.
Item 7D24 is lost on a recorded vote of 2 to 8. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors McCreary and Martin. Members of council voting against: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Mr. Mayor, some.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot.
No, it makes total sense. I think we should leave it in.
Could the clerk correct my error, please?
I'm absolutely shocked, Councillor McCurry. All right, any other discussion, amendments? Not seeing, oh, Councillor Sloss.
Are you looking for further amendments, Mr. Mayor? To the
I'm
capital budget?
not necessarily fishing for amendments, but if you want to bring one, now's the time to do it.
There is one that I was asked to bring forward. It was I guess a missed item when we went through. And the motion would read as follows: moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Caputo, that the Estimates Committee Report 2023-01-23 be amended to allow for the addition of recommissioning of pumping stations 5 and 6 capital project to be funded as follows. Water Development Charges Reserve Fund, 1.392 million, and Water and Related Reserve, $928,000. It's if we don't approve this, I think we've got a big problem with our pumping stations and a whole lot of problems with development in the city. So it was an oversight that it wasn't in the initial, but this will put it in.
So, sorry, Councillor Carbon, you're seconding it?
Oh, no, Councillor Caputo was seconding, I
Yeah,
believe.
sorry. Okay, you're seconding it, all right. So discussion on this, Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the viewing public knows that this is from reserves that come from your water and sewer charges. That's where these reserves come from, and the money's been in the account for some time. It just got slipped in the capital budget and it needs to be done. So it doesn't impact your current tax bill coming forward. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. It also, in the information that we received, this is necessary to meet the fire department requirements for a major fire. They were barely able to keep up with the demand when the recent large fire happened. So we need this upgrade so that any major fire incident in the future can be safely handled.
All right, so I'll call a vote on the amendment to bring in this very necessary item into our budget.
The amendment carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we're going to now move to item 12.5.1. This is a separate vote because of the vote on the budget, sorry, as amended. So any discussion? Seeing none. Deputy Clerk.
The main motion as amended carries on a recorded vote of 9-1. Members voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Celeste, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Samuel. Members opposed: Councillor Van Tilburg.
So that clears up the budget. Okay, so then let's move to 12.5.1. Previously, we voted on all the appointments except I believe was economic development because of Councillor Sokoli's conflict. So we're voting on that separately, and I don't imagine anybody wants to discuss it. I'll just call the vote.
The appointments to the Economic Development Committee carries on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin, Caputo, Mayor Davis, noting that Councillor Sokoli declared a conflict of interest and did not participate in the vote.
All right, similarly, we're going to move to 12.5.2.2. That is the appointment of a citizen member out of the nominating committee report. And this was because of the conflict declared by Councillor Carpenter. So the other items were previously approved, so we're just voting on that one.
Item 12.5.2.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Carpenter's conflict of interest.
So we don't have any urgent reports, but we do have one notice of motion. I believe Councillor Caputo, if you could please read the title of your notice of motion.
Brantford Transit Seniors Ride for Free.
Just read the title. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks very much. All right. That's it then for notices of motion this evening. So we'll now move into bylaws. And I believe Councillor Samuel, you have the motion to move the first and second reading of the bylaws, and we can all relax as you do quite a bit of reading here.
Thanks for that. Okay. So seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Van Tilburg, that leave be given to the mover and the seconder to introduce the following bylaws for the first and second reading. 2-2023 bylaw to authorize the execution of agreements individually dated and listed on Schedule A attached hereto. Number 1, lease agreement between the corporation of the city of Brantford and Glenhurst Art Gallery Incorporated 2023-3.4 sorry, 2023-334. Combined Committee of the Whole Operations and Planning Administration Report 2023-01-17. The Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended, Part Lot Control, Corporate Policy 10, Delegation of Authority, Schedule B. 4-2023 bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 bylaw, or being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Sanderson Center parking fees 2023-8 Combined Committee of the Whole Operations and Planning Administration Report 2023-01-17. 5.5-2023 bylaw to amend Chapter 507 of the City of Brantford Dangerous Combustible Inflammable Explosive Substances Open Air Burning 2023-41. Combined Committee of the Whole Operations and Planning Administration Report 2023-01-17. 6-2023 bylaw to amend traffic bylaws 37-83, being bylaw to regulate traffic in the city of Brantford, Oak Hill, and Dobney. Combined Committee of the Whole Operations and Planning Administration Report 2023-01-17. 7-2023 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code Procedure Special City Council Meeting, January 10th, 2023. 8-2023 being a bylaw to appoint citizen members to various boards and committees. Appointments Committee Report 2023-1-24. 9-2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 58-2019 as previously amended, being a bylaw to authorize the police service headquarters relocation project to make a provision for the financing of foregoing estimates committee report number 2023-01-23. 10-2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaws 54-2019, being a bylaw to authorize Brantford Airport additional T hangar installation. Hangar 2 of 2 project and make provisions for financing and foregoing estimates committee report 2023-01-23. 11-2023 being a bylaw to authorize the MP sanitary pump station rehabilitation and replacement to make provision for financing of foregoing estimates committee report 2023-01-23. 12-23 bylaw being to authorize the Southwest Community Center Phase 3 and make provisions for financing of the foregoing estimates committee report 2023-01-23. 13-2023 to amend bylaw number 160-90, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and location and use of buildings and structures of the city of Brantford, PZ 10-2022-2023-35 Planning Committee Report 2023-01-19. 14-2023 bylaw to confirm proceedings of council of the corporation of the city of Brantford with respect to the meeting held on January 31st, 2023.
Great, thank you, Councillor Samuel. So now wanting to know if anybody wants to separate first and second reading. We're going to separate 8-2023. That's the bylaw to appoint citizen members of various boards, committees. And what I'd ask Councillor Sokoli and Councillor Carpenter, just keep it simple. Just we'll acknowledge your conflict. Just don't vote on it. Okay. Councillor Sluss.
My conflict on the John Noble home, is that not reflected in any bylaw?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody else want to separate for discussion? Not seeing any. We'll deal with 8-2023 first and second reading.
The first and second reading of bylaw 8-2023 carries unanimously on recorded vote. Members of council vote in favor as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin Caputo, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Sokoli's and Councillor Carpenter's conflict of interest.
So the remainder of the bylaws, first and second reading.
The first and second reading of all bylaws not separated carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Celeste, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Samuel, Van Tilburg, and Mayor Davis.
All right, Councillor McCreary, you have the motion for third reading.
That is correct, Mayor. Councillor Martin and I are very pleased to bring you the third reading of bylaws as follows: that all bylaws having received a first and second reading be taken as read a third time and be finally passed and signed by Mayor and Clerk.
Great. And likewise, we'll deal separately with 8-2023 with Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Sokoli not voting on that item. So we'll deal with that one first.
The third and final reading of bylaw 8-2023 carries unanimously on recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin Caputo, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Sokoli and Councillor Carpenter's conflict of interest.
And the balance?
The third and final reading of all bylaws not separated carries unanimously in a recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council vote in favor as follows: Councillor Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Celeste, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Samuel, Van Tilburg, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll now do ward announcements as I sign the bylaws. We'll start with Councillor Samuel.
All right. So the one thing I want to mention for our award announcement is just the fantastic meeting that we had in regards to the Mohawk Lake District. It was a community meeting held at the Brantford Civic Center on January 26th. And it was really exciting to see so much of the community come out to share their enthusiasm and their thoughts on that project. It was exciting to see staff continually having to add more chairs because the room was getting so full, as well as the folks that attended on Zoom. So I just wanted to thank the community for showing so much support to that project. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. We've all seen the mess that's been left by snowplows as they had to go around parked vehicles. So I'd implore anybody who parks on the street, if at all you can get your car off the street during the next snow event, it'll certainly make it easier for our plow drivers to get the streets done quicker and do a better job. Thank you.
Councillor Caputo.
I agree with Councillor Martin because my phone has been going like crazy. The other things about the ward, just noted that John Celeste and I will be attending in February Dufferin Park School parking and Ever Road traffic calming issues, which certainly are going to help out with the citizens of Ward 2.
Councillor Scully.
It's the one thing they don't warn you about when you become a counselor is the first winter event and how overwhelming that can be. So we're all learning. The West Brant Neighborhood Association is hosting a neighborhood meet and greet with Councillor Sullivan and I. So if you're interested in getting to know us, do come out on Thursday from 6 to 8. We'll be at Generations Church, which is located at 62 Balfour. And then the skating rinks are opening in the parks all throughout the community. And I know that all of the neighborhood associations are always open to volunteers who want to come out and maintain the skating rink. So if you are interested in volunteering your time, reach out to me or anyone at the neighborhood associations. I'd be happy to connect anyone who's interested. And sadly, there's been some vandalism out in West Brant with the skating rinks. So please use the rinks respectfully and make sure we're leaving the parks the way we found it, and keep up the good work to all the neighborhood associations. I definitely enjoy using the rinks. Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Carry on.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to congratulate the Neighborhood Association for the work, and I want to highlight some of the things they're doing every Saturday from here on in at the Woodman Community Center from 10:30 in the morning to 12:30. It's free gym at Woodman Community Center for the kids and families. So come on out. I also want to, you have to register. So go online and register with the city or register with the East Ward Echo Place Neighborhood Association. You can find them online. They also have basic 101 learning basic acting auditioning, and that's February 9th from 8 to 10 p.m. at Woodman Community Center. That's for those over 18. If you want to learn a little bit about acting, we do it here a little bit sometimes, but it would be the Neighborhood Association does a terrific job there. And so the other thing I want to highlight, this is that the Eastport Neighborhood Association Gifts of the Heart. The Neighborhood Association is looking for volunteers for Wednesday. So from 8:30 to 1:30, they help prepare 222 free lunches for kids in the schools that wouldn't otherwise have a lunch. And so if you'd like to volunteer for that, the Neighborhood Association would love to have your help. And if you'd just like to volunteer for the Neighborhood Association, anyway, say as Councillor Samuel, or sorry, as Councillor Sokoli has said, the Neighborhood Association always looking for volunteers for the ice rinks. Or if you want to join the Neighborhood Association anyway, just go online and Google East Ward Echo Place Neighborhood Association. You'll find the information. And I can't tell you how proud I am of this organization, Mr. Mayor, members of council. They've got probably the largest volunteer group that I've seen in the community in a long time. They're all active. Their program is pretty full. Megan does a great job working with them. And just finally, I would say look for the signage soon from Brandland Communities Neighborhood Association. They will also, the baseball season will start. They'll be advertising that shortly in February, and we're moving into February as of tomorrow. So it won't be long. Just keep your eyes open for the sign for registration for Brandland baseball. Thank you.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. With every snowstorm, residents and property owners and tenants are required to clear the sidewalks. If you see somebody who's chronically unable to clear their sidewalk because of infirmity or physical inability, maybe pitch in, help them out, or find a source of service for those folks. If it's a commercial property, by all means, call your counselor and report it, because there's a responsibility to keep sidewalks safe for pedestrian usage. Our folks do a pretty darn good job of clearing the snow and ice away from our streets during winter events, which used to be called snowstorms. If you do get missed, let us know right away, and we can make sure that our folks come back and get you looked after. Similarly, if you signed up for the Windrow snow clearing program and you get missed, let us know right away. We try to do better each time out, and our goal is to provide exemplary public service. Thank you.
Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate what my ward mate had indicated, that on February 14th, we have it is the February 16th at Dufferin School in the gym there. There'll be a neighborhood meeting starting at 6:30 to discuss the parking issues that they're having there at drop off and pickup times at the school. And the following week on February 23rd, there'll be a meeting at Thomas B. Costain for the Ava Road neighborhood. They have been asking for traffic calming. We thought we had a solution. When they saw the paintings on the pavement, they all panicked. So we have more options to take out to them, and we'll be looking for consensus that evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Maybe we can get some advice from the Ward 3 councillors. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to what Councillor Secoli had said, I look forward to meeting you guys at the West Brant Neighborhood Association meeting on Thursday. And further to what Councillor McCurry was saying, if you know seniors that are out there and you haven't seen them out in a bit, go knock on the door and check on them. Let's live with the random act of kindness and just make sure that everybody's doing okay. Thanks.
Great. Well, that takes care of all the ward announcements, and we are having a special council meeting next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Councilor Carpenter.
Something I forgot to mention when we talked about the snow removal. I had a couple that are in a wheelchair in my ward, and they were snowed in with their wheelchair van, and they had to get them to a doctor's appointment. And I just want to have a shout out to our staff in the engineering department, because I called Mark Jacklin. I'm sorry, I'm centering him out, but he did a terrific job of making sure they got cleared out in time for the medical appointment. So the staff went above and beyond the call of duty here. And I just think it deserves recognition. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making that point. And so we're adjourned to next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I wasn't going to get through the evening without saying it. To consider the Brantford Bulldog proposal. Till then,